Hello, party people. My name is Riley Schmitz, and you are listening to This is a Draft, a podcast where I navigate my life experiences and talk about all of them with absolutely no filter, in hopes that it will help myself and hopefully you learn how to be more happy and fulfilled in life and in business, even when things are a little chaotic, as they always are. So, without further ado, this is a draft on knowing who you are. I went for coffee with my old academic chair a couple days ago now, and we had a great little chat. It's always nice to see him, always great. I always learn so much when I'm with him. But I told him, I gave him my little rundown on what's going on in my life. He has experience being an entrepreneur as well, so he was able to give me a lot of great insight on that topic. But one of the things that he said that really stuck with me, and like I thought about it all day, kind of stuck with me, was that you have to know yourself. A bit of context on that point. Before he got to make that point, I was telling him about what happened with the agency that I worked at over the summer, how that all shook out, whatever. And he made a point like you have to know yourself. I I think I know myself quite well, and I think that every time something like that happens, getting fired was a huge one, you learn more about yourself in the way that you relate to the workforce or relate to other people. Same thing with friendship fallouts. All of that really plays a part into learning who you really are at your core. And it's not this fake version of yourself that you put out and try to accommodate in all of these situations, but like the real you. There are things that you just can't tolerate, you know? So I guess what I'm trying to say is knowing yourself is abundantly so important, and it's the only way that you can truly connect with others is if you really know yourself first, I believe, at least. I have a Pinterest board about like knowing yourself first. That's I will just leave that there. Um but I think it also kind of ties back to that trend that we see going around, I think primarily on Instagram right now. It was probably on TikTok 2 months ago, but I'm not on TikTok. I wouldn't know. Um, but about knowing who you were before the world taught you who to be. I think that concept is just so beautiful, and I think it really applies here because, of course, with external influences, we become certain ways, we get jaded, we hold grudges against the world and the things that happen in it. But at your core, you'll always be the same person that you were as a child, in my eyes. Like, understanding, I see a lot of this in myself. I see the happier and more content with my life that I am able to get, the more traits from when I was a kid come out in my daily interactions, in the things that I get excited about and how excited I get about them. And it's quite the pipeline, remembering all of that. And it's very bittersweet in the sense that most times I'll remember something or get super excited about something and realize that, oh, wow, like I haven't done that in a really long time. I haven't felt this way in a really long time. And 99.9% of the time, I'm able to trace it back to the moment that I lost that quality in my younger self. So, on one hand, it's really positive to be learning all of these things and understanding who I am as today's self. But on the other hand, quite heartbreaking, honestly, to be so I try not to be resentful towards any of my past experiences, but I think that's the best word to describe the feeling. Like, there are, of course, reasons from way back that I want to work on my own. I want to not work under anybody. I am not good at being managed. I'm good at managing. I'm just not. I don't like being managed. I don't enjoy it. I think that. I think in a very out of the box way. And I like iterating and I like making things better. And I do understand that that's a form of procrastination. So I'm trying to cut back on my reinvention of the wheel. Um, but yeah, I used to get dinged on reinventing the wheel all the time. When I worked at the Levi's store close to my house, it was not exactly, they didn't frame it as something bad. It was just, oh yeah, she's reinventing the wheel again. Because I was always trying to find the fastest way to get through the 70 boxes of stock. But the ways that I theorized in my head that would become the fastest ways took very long to implement and ended up some days it would take way longer than it needed to. That is my fault. I did reinvent the wheel a little bit too much. They did tell me to stop doing it at one point. My manager's there. But since then, since I quit that job and started working on my own, I think the longer I work for myself, the more, this sounds like a really ugly term the way I'm about to use it, the more unmanageable I become. So it's very, it's a hard concept to really think about because of course traits like that, I used to be the biggest people pleaser in the world. I'm really cracking down hard on working on that because I cannot afford to be a people pleaser in this point in my career. But my child self was unapologetic, of course, because you don't just become a people pleaser the second you're born. You need to be kind of shaped by the world. And I think especially women, but especially nowadays everybody, as every young person is kind of given this box to fit into that's going to be your roadmap to success. And that includes being a good listener, obviously. That's one I agree with. Having good manners, that's one I agree with. Being agreeable, that one I don't agree with. I think the less agreeable you are, the better you're going to do. But then again, it depends on what your definition of success is. I also talked about this with my old academic chair a couple days ago, that everyone's definition of success is so different. Myself versus my friends that I graduated SATE with, very different ideas of what success looks like. Like not drastically different. We all want careers. We all want to work, obviously. But career success looks so different from me to someone who wants a full-time job and to climb the corporate ladder, right? So it's interesting. It's interesting the molds that we're told that we have to fit into in our youth, in our growing up stages. It really, I don't know if it hinders our possibility, but I would venture to guess that yeah, it does. That's like the core reason that I don't believe that school guidance counselors should be asking anyone who is not already career driven to choose a path. I remember when I was in, I think the second semester of grade 11, I got called down to the guidance counselor's office, and she gave me this whole spiel about how, oh, your time's running out. You gotta choose what you want to do with your life. You have to pick so we can line up your classes accordingly. I was taking all of the classes that I was interested in. If my career in the future, at that point, I was thinking, if my career in the future needs me to be excellent in something that I'm not interested in, like math. I took Dash 2 math. I'm sure certain design programs that you could take need Dash 1 math, and if that was the case, I would have upgraded, or I would have found something that's just as good that I could do with Dash 2 math. I don't know, but I remember that day and feeling so behind that I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. When in reality, half of the people in my class didn't know what they wanted to do with their lives. So I spouted off some random shit to her. I think I told her I wanted to be a psychologist, which probably was true at the time. I was taking a psych class, a dual credit psych class, so it was interesting to me. But I don't have that scientific brain. I have an analytical brain, but it is far from scientific or mathematical. So I think that's just another way of the system, telling you who to be. I'm starting to talk like an anarchist now, but I really think that it's harmful in some cases. And of course, there are some people, like, who know what they want to do and are so sure about it from the moment they start kindergarten. I know people who have always wanted to be in nursing, and now they're going into nursing. And that is amazing. There are people like that, for sure. But I think this mindset of, oh, you gotta, once you finish high school, you gotta go to university and you gotta get a degree and you have to know exactly what you're gonna do before you start grade 12 because you need time to catch up on all your classes. I think that's so toxic. You will never catch me asking asking a child, a literal child, what their career path is, what their dream is. Yes, but never what their career path is. I will never be able to get behind that. Because it's another way of the world telling you who to be. I don't like that. For anyone who doesn't know, every Thursday morning, I go to my old middle school and I work with an amazing group of kids to create their own podcast. It's called Unify. They are absolutely incredible young adults. I respect the hell out of them. And their teacher is also amazing. She taught me in middle school. Miss Amanda Russell. Absolute icon, style-wise, education-wise, everything. But hanging out with them and seeing how original they still are and how they have their own personality. They haven't developed a personality off of social media. They haven't developed a personality off of the nastiness of the world, and I'm sure select few of the people in their classes, because middle school is not a nice place. And they're just themselves. And I really respect that, because when I was in middle school, I was not that. And of course, they might grow up and think the same way, but I see in them a spark and a passion, and they all have very unique interests. And to an extent, yes, I was like that. But I I fell into the wrong friend groups, and it was all, I let them tell me who to be. I put myself into the mold that they would like. And that ties back to the agreeability thing. Right. Now, I am a firm believer that being agreeable will not get me personally anywhere. I am hated by quite a few people, a couple in the industry that I work in. And I think that's great. That means that I am being opinionated enough. That's all. I don't mind having a divided audience. If I am sharing my opinion to my highest my highest power of opinion sharing, I'm doing the right thing. That's what's going to get you seen. After the kids went to their first classes this morning, it's Thursday today that I'm filming this, um, I hung back and I chatted with their teacher, with Miss Russell, a little bit. She taught me in 8th grade, and I cannot kick the habit of calling her Miss Russell. It's very hard for me to call her Amanda. But I digress. We hung back and talked for a little bit, and we were talking about planning next week, how we're going to do that, how we're going to go about planning their next episode. Their next episode is talking about AI, so that's going to be fun. But yeah, we were just chatting, and we got onto the topic of how being able to have personal connection is so lost on this generation. And it's fully because most of them don't know who they are. And it's, like I said before, impossible to connect with people when you don't know you, when you're not connected with yourself. And I think that's another damage that is done by this damn world when we're growing up. And of course, like, my parents instilled my confidence in who I am pretty deeply in me, and I was still really affected by what people thought, what grades I got, what stereotype I was going to fall into once I got into high school. To the point that when I graduated high school, I didn't really know who I was anymore. I had no idea. I wouldn't have been able to tell you. I just fell in with whatever crowd I was hanging out with and acted like them. And that was how I was for the majority of my school years, probably grade 6 onward. I just kind of joined a friend group. Oh, cool. I'm like you. I had a moment, maybe, a very small moment of not being like that, but it was very difficult, and it was a difficult year until I got back into the things that I used to love. I remember I after I graduated high school, I did not do any art. I didn't paint for the longest time. And I think that's when I feel most myself. It's when I'm able to have my most introspective moments. But I didn't do that for a really long time. And then I think one of my friends that I worked with had asked me to do a commission piece for someone for Christmas that year. This was 2022. Yes, 2022. And I did it. And I remember enjoying it so much, and I was getting so excited over it. And that was such a good feeling for me because I hadn't felt that in such a long time. I hadn't felt like myself in such a long time. So from there, I guess it was easier for me to jump into relearning who I was, who I once was. And it's been kind of an ebb and flow of my childhood personality coming back to me and leaving, and coming back to me and leaving over the past 3 or so years, which I think is natural. Of course, if we all went around, it wouldn't be accepted by society if we all went around showing all of the excitement and showing all of the love and not being afraid to wear our hearts on our sleeve. And that is really unfortunate, but it's the world we live in. So it becomes kind of a balancing act of who you really are and who the world told you to be, the best parts only of who the world told you to be. I'm hoping that I've dropped all the negative parts. I'm still searching, but there's always hope. Yeah, it is a wicked balancing act between everything. I'm trying my best to blend them because I am a full believer in authenticity. And one part of my younger self that I will never be letting out of my sight again is how bloody disagreeable I am. I do not like the gender stereotype of being agreeable. It's out. I'm not doing that ever again in my life. And I haven't for the past year or so. I've been very Very disagreeable. Anyone who has tried to manage me, or tell me what to do, or tell me how to do something in the past year and a half has probably noticed that. I would venture a guess. So, yeah, I'm happy with how I've managed to blend those two things, those two categories of personality that we kind of unfortunately have to have. And my goal, if I can if I can teach the kids that I work with one thing, it will be, it has to be, to never forget who you are. Always remember what what made you who you are, what what instances in your life, what experiences contributed to this amazing personality that you've built, and hold on to them. I highly recommend keeping a journal. But I really hope that I can pass that knowledge down to them. I try to set the best example that I can of being so unapologetic. You should never apologize for who you are as a person, if it's really who you are. If you're being a dick and you're saying, it's just who I am. I've got an uncle who does that. Not gonna name drop because he's already mad at me this week. But I don't that's not a personality trait. Don't even bother trying to change my mind because you can't. Being a jackass doesn't count. But all of the wholesome things that make you into such a lovable person. And I believe that everyone at their core is a lovable person. Some folks are more jaded than others, which makes them harder to get get in with. Like they're not letting people in as easily, or they struggle to know themselves because they've gone through whatever has jaded them, right? So it's a very delicate line existing as a human being and trying to achieve all these things when really we're on a rock in space, guys. Crazy. We're this big with this much personality in every one of us. I think that's such a wonderful thing. And it's such an important conversation to have. I urge you, if you're listening to this, go ask someone in your life who they were before the world told them who to be. Really press the question and see if they can answer it. I'm really curious. If you get any interesting insights or if you have any interesting insights, please feel free to message me because this has been one of my favorite topics to talk about all week. Um, but yeah, understanding who you are and how you came to be that way is such a crucial part of business and career life, which is easy for me to say because I've always been kind of a take me as I am person. But I feel as though a lot of people, and I think I saw this a lot when I was in college in classmates, they have this secondary personality that they bring out when they're doing presentations and engaging with people when they're networking. And I don't think that gets you anywhere. It's people want to know you. Your personality is what makes your presentation engaging, not how pretty the slides are. Your personality is what makes your elevator pitch hit, not how well written it is. It's a it's a very it's very rough. 'Cause I'm a whimsical girl at heart. So it's really interesting to apply that whimsy in a career appropriate way. So I'm not just running around throwing candy in the air. If I could get paid for that, I would. But I can't. So I'm a creative strategist. And that is how I got here. Knowing who you are also really ties in with understanding your standards and what you want out of life and what steps you need to take to get there. For instance, a couple weeks ago, I got offered a contract position, full-time contract, at a print shop. I went to interview for it. It was covering someone who was going on mat leave. I went to interview for it. The vibes were off. It wasn't what I was looking for, and I turned it down. And a year ago, I would have never dreamt of doing such a thing because I didn't know my standards. I knew that I wanted stability, and I thought, in my warped little exhausted, ready to graduate mind, that in order to have stability, I needed to be working a full-time job. At least for a little while, I wanted that experience. I was always told by basically everyone, get at least 5 years of agency experience, work at a couple before you start your own thing. Clearly, I didn't do that. Here I am starting my own thing. I don't know. I don't think I buy that, to be completely honest with you. I have enough business acumen to kill a horse. I think I inherited it from my dad when I was born. Probably just learned by observation as I grew up. But I just understand it on kind of a deeper level. It comes very naturally to me. Yeah. And I'm a good self-starter in resume terms, as I said. So, from the experience of thinking that I needed the job, obviously, I did a lot of learning about what my standards are for the way I want to be treated, the way I want to be compensated for my work, the way things should be run in order for me to stay or even accept an opportunity. Right? So I was pretty proud of myself when I turned down that contract position because that shows so much growth to me. And I was quite impressed with myself. I was really happy with that. That's all I've got to say about the topic of knowing yourself. Aside from that, small updates on my life. Not much is new, but I tried to record this episode earlier when chaos seemed to interrupt me, and I got a phone call from a client that my ex-boss is suing him. That's pretty brutal, to be completely honest. I agreed to be a witness. Basically, I don't want to share too much information. It's not my right to, but my ex-boss does not have a leg to stand on. So, if they do end up taking it to court, I'll see you there, buddy, if you're watching this or listening to this. Yeah, there really is no way that he's taken home the W on this one, which is really, it disheartens me to see such a poor decision made by someone that I once really respected and idolized. But at the end of the day, that's all part of growing. Not the first time in the past year that I've seen things like that happen. I really do have a very strong connection with this client. It's very personable, it's very human. And I love that so much about this company. And I never found that opportunity was there when I was working at the old agency. So I am eternally grateful that I am out on my own. I'm grateful for my clients. I am grateful for the experience that I had at that agency. And the fact that I'm still entangled in it even is something to be grateful for. Even though it's chaotic and I don't understand why he wants to start shit. To be completely honest, I can say it like that. But I know for a fact that the agency does not have a leg to stand on. So, that's that bit of drama. Anyways, I digress. This has been a draft on knowing who you are. I am your host, Riley Schmitz. You can find me on Instagram at Riley Melina Schmitz. Also on YouTube and Spotify, Apple, anywhere else you get your podcasts. You can listen to This is a Draft. Thank you all very much for tuning in, and I will talk to you next week.